Hello and welcome back to Job Carr Cabin Museum. Today we're talking all about Job Carr and his jobs. So what did Job Carr do for work? Well, we know that Job Carr had at least 9 different occupations during his lifetime. So let's dig into those a little bit more. To start, back in the 1840s and 1850s, Job Carr was a farmer. And we know that at one point he owned a nursery and specialized in growing things like apple trees. We also know that Job Carr painted houses and decorated homes with wallpaper. Well, then in 1860, the Civil War started, and Job Carr decided that he wanted to become a soldier. Now, Job Carr believed that fighting was wrong. He was a Quaker, which is a religious group that believes in peace. But he also believed that slavery was an even greater wrong. And so Job Carr joined with the Union Army, and you can see him in his Civil War uniform here. But war is really hard, and sometimes people get hurt and even die. Well, Job Carr was injured 2 times, and the second time his injuries were so bad that he had to stop being a soldier and go home to recover. So while Job was getting better, he heard about President Abraham Lincoln's plan to build railroad tracks that would connect the East Coast with the West Coast. And so Job Carr knew that a town at the end of the railroad would be a really big success. The train would bring people and supplies together and connect them. And this was in the days before cars and trucks, before airplanes or bicycles, and so the train was a really big deal. So Job Carr decided to start a new life and head west. He traveled on the Oregon Trail, and it took him about 4 months to get from Iowa out here to Washington. Now, when he got here, of course, there were other people already living around here. In fact, the Puyallup tribe has lived in this area for thousands of years. So one of the first places that Job Carr went was actually to the Puyallup Reservation. And he talked to the people there and learned more about the area. And when he was looking for the spot to build his house, he picked a place that was about 4 miles away from the reservation on land that the government had opened up to settlers. So pretty soon, Job Carr built his house, and other people heard about Job and his plan to start a city, and they wanted to be his neighbors. So they started to move here and build their homes near Job. And then in 1869, there were enough people living here that they needed their own post office. So Job Carr became the first postmaster, and his job would have involved things like stamps and scales to weigh the mail, postmarks for the packages. And then in 1875, the town got even bigger, and it was time to have an election. And Job Carr was voted the first mayor of Tacoma. He also served as the first notary public and justice of the peace. So he was signing lots and lots of documents back then. Job Carr also worked in this area as a millwright, and so that means he would go to the mills and help repair and maintain the equipment. We know that he visited the flour mill in Steilacoom quite a bit and helped to repair the tools, the machines down there with some tools like those. So Job Carr also continued to paint, and we know that at one point the governor of Washington even invited him to come to Olympia and paint some rooms at the Capitol building. So, did you catch all of Job Carr's jobs? Which ones can you remember? Are there any of Job Carr's jobs that you think you might want to do when you grow up?